Hello, I'm Ed and I'd like to welcome you to our podcast series, Tackling It Together, brought to you by Little Blackbird, where we will be having open, honest and important conversations with some inspirational guests. So welcome to the Little Blackbird podcast. The aim of this podcast is to interview real people with real stories and real perspectives. And today we are lucky enough to have my old pal, Martin. Martin is going to give us the perspective of a leader. So Martin runs his own business, a business that I've been very lucky to have an opportunity to work with over the past 2 years. Little Blackbird has been on board to do team development, one-to-one coaching, and we've had a cracking time working together. But the perspective that we're going to get today is from a leadership point of view. We also have a connection, Martin and I, that we very tragically have been on the receiving end of suicide. We've both lost good friends. So we'll also get a perspective and see whether that's had any impact. So, how's it going, Matt?
Not too bad, mate, yeah. My first podcast.
There we go. Let's hope it's not the last.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. Let's hope it doesn't get a lot of hits for the wrong reason. Eh?
So, listen, we're going to go in. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. First question is, what's your favourite cheese?
Oh, I'm a bit old school, I think, cheddar. Good old bit of cheese on toast. When I was a kid, if I was ill, when I started getting better, my mum would give me cheese on toast. I don't know why, it probably wasn't the right thing to give a kid when they're not being very well, but yeah, I think that's why, yeah.
So no cowpole in those days?
No. I went, yeah, giving my age away now, yeah.
And in your opinion, you know, you're an ex-rugby player.
Yeah.
Who would win in a fight between an otter and a beaver?
I mean, otters are pretty hard, aren't they? But beavers have got that tail, so I don't know. Otters, we find otters in English waters, so I'm going to say otter.
Good work.
Yeah.
Okay, so firstly, thanks for agreeing to have this conversation today. I'm really intrigued as to what your perspective's going to be. And we've obviously worked together for a long time. But my first question is, why did you say yes? I asked you a couple of weeks ago, or maybe less than that. Why did you say yes to this podcast?
Interesting. I hope the answer isn't because I wanted to be on a podcast. No, I think we've done a lot of work in Salvtech and a lot of work between us, and we've got a long history together. And I'm quite surprised at the change. So I think it's quite important to talk about these things. I mean, in terms of going on a podcast, the thought of me appearing on you know, I don't really go on social media yet, so that fills me with fear. But the idea of, you know, like maybe passing on something that we've learned, you know, I mean, I don't know about the word. I'm never comfortable with the word legacy, but there is a certain element of, you know, if you've experienced something really positive and really good that you see has helped other people and has even helped yourself, then why shouldn't you pass that on? You know, you almost have a duty to pass those things on. And if you're a parent, I mean, you kind of consider that as really your, you know, that's your sole function in life, really. So this is just an extension of that, really, passing on things that we've learned that might be useful to other people. You know, why not?
And on that, when you say passing on things that you've learned, what are the things that have contributed to what I see and what your team sees as a leader? What are the things that's really impacted you as a leader? Because you're a real scholar, you're a student, you love your podcasts, you love your leadership and development, you're hungry for it every day, but what are the things that have impacted you as a leader?
Well, if I teleported myself back 20, even 30 years, give my age away again now, I thought very differently.
Right.
I mean, really differently. I think everybody did. You know, times change. People change with the times. But I think, you know, things happen to you in life which also influence your thinking, change the way you think about other people. I think as you get older, you become maybe less focused on yourself. You know, when you're young, especially, you know, young men, particularly, certainly of my generation, wanted to, you wanted to kind of do better, you wanted the next better job, you're kind of driven by this thing. And I don't know whether it's just in you or whether it's taught to you, that you should be achieving this or you should be striving to do this. I think your goals change when you get older. And certainly when things happen to you that make you think a little bit about, what is this all about actually? Becoming a parent clearly changes you, the way you think. But also, you mentioned earlier about losing a friend to suicide. That was really kind of changed the way that I thought about a lot of things. My daughter was and I know you've had a similar experience with children being in, actually both at Alder Hey, weren't they? So my daughter was in Alder Hey. And that was a really challenging time for us. And we'd had a challenging time before that. Anyway, just, becoming parents. So as these things happen to you as you get older, I think it changes your focus, it changes your perspective on life. And certainly for me, being a leader at work, and I don't even really like the word leader, but I mean, it's hard to, if you've got to put a label on something, I think actually creating a team around you who are happy to be there is one of the most valuable things you can do. And I think when I started this business, I kind of thought I was creating an opportunity to make a living and also have choices, because that's something that you sometimes don't have when you work in a big organization. You don't necessarily have choices. I mean, that's daunting and it can be quite frightening and also extremely stressful at times. But of course, with everything, there's positives and negatives. You get choices. And I think one of the choices that I didn't realize I was going to have was the choice to kind of put people at the forefront of everything that you do. And strangely, that started off as I think it's quite well known in business that you look after your people and they look after everything else. I think that's quite a well-known thing. And I think this journey for me started by doing that, thinking, okay, we need to look after our people. But it's become more than that, actually. I think we've now realized that as a business owner, people's lives, and not just those individuals, but their families, are intertwined with everything that you do. So decisions that you make can impact them. It could be something as simple as, we work on construction sites a lot, and it's mostly lads work away. They might have young kids, and decisions that you make about saying, okay, well, can they come home over the weekend or should they stay there and work? Just small decisions like that can impact tremendously what happens to them at home. And I think that weight of responsibility is, again, quite frightening, but it's also quite enlightening to think, do you know what, actually, I could look at it the other way around. I could probably impact somebody's life positively. And it's not just about the leader impacting those, it's about creating an environment where everybody's doing that. Everybody's thinking, how can I influence this team? And of course, you can't make people happy.
No.
But what you can do is you can take away all of the reasons why, when they're in the workplace, for being unhappy with the workplace. But of course, you want to try and make people happy, but, there's a certain 50-50 part to this,
Now, is it as easy as that?
Oh, no.
Is it as easy as taking away those things that make you have a lot of...
No.
We were talking before, you have a lot of employees that travel quite a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that are inevitable. So there you're saying, yes, you can't make people happy, but you can take things away. What impact does that have on you? Because I know you're incredibly people focused.
Yeah.
What pressure does that put on you, that mindset?
It can bring financial pressure. We do make choices sometimes where we're pricing a job, and we're making ourselves more expensive, But I think something that that you introduced to us as a group that we probably did but it wasn't conscious, was working to our values. And once we decided on, and our values we don't have this kind of like, here are our 3 values. They kind of float around, probably 3, but they're not kind of, these are the 3. It's close to that. But I think once you start saying, okay, look, we're making a decision And we openly discuss that. We say, listen, our values are this. We all agreed? Yeah. So when we're making this decision, actually, this is the most important thing. And perhaps sometimes that means that a commercial decision comes secondary. And you might think, I can imagine there's business owners just listening to this thinking, like, this guy's on drugs. Do you know what I mean? Like he's, this is...
You get that a lot.
Yeah. Just socially.
He's not, by the way.
Yeah. But I think actually, if it doesn't take very long before you realise that suddenly, once you start doing that, people start buying into that whole concept internally. Do you know what? They start making really great choices. They start looking after each other. People start being a lot happier in their workplace, and they work together better, and you become more efficient. And and so, like I say, everything in life is, there's always a give and take somewhere, isn't there? And for me, letting go of that concept of just chasing the dollar, but this is the right financial decision to make, and say, look, these are the values. Let's just stick to this. This is our swim lane. We're sticking to this. Yeah, we'll make these decisions based on these things. Yeah, and all the good stuff. We just got to trust that the good stuff will come with it. Yeah? And actually, what I found is within our business anyway, that has happened. We've grown year on year for the last 4 years, and okay, we're not trying to rule the world, but what we are trying to do is, I said I don't like the word legacy, but I often have this thing that I say to people: look, nobody's going to write on your gravestone, "Oh, he's a bloody good businessman," but somebody might write on your gravestone, "He was a great friend and a good parent and a good husband." So once you start thinking, actually, what do I want to? Maybe it's because I'm getting older, I start thinking about these things, but what do I want to achieve? What does feel right to me? When I look in the mirror, what makes me happy about the decisions I've made? Yeah. And there are a few occasions when I've thought, I could have made a better commercial decision, but we made the decision that's right for the people or the people around us.
Yeah.
And I can look in the mirror and say, okay, I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that.
I'm going to take you back to, because you and I are quite connected. You alluded to it before. We have been in that situation where we've been sitting by our child's bed and feeling utterly vulnerable,
horrendous,
lost. We are connected. There's probably a lot of people who are watching and hearing this are as well. So there's that moment. There's also the moment where you're actually connected with getting that phone call or whatever correspondence to say that we've lost one of our flock, one of our friends. For me, it was a big Michael lad from back home. For you, I know it was a lad from university.
Yeah. Shared house with. Yeah.
So just take me back to those moments, and you're in control as to where you go with this. But what impact, looking back, do you feel those moments had on shaping the man that I see today? And also, how the hell did you deal with that vulnerability?
I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. I think, without, I don't want to sound like I'm bleating, but, we've had, particularly myself and wife, had quite a lot of different challenges, some very private, some not so private. Mm-hmm. And I think, we talk a lot about resilience. I think you do learn skills. The unfortunate thing is that to really, truly learn resilience, you kind of have to, you have to face some serious challenges. And I think the more serious they are, if they haven't broken you, the greater resilience has. Actually, as an engineer, I always go to this thing about beating metal. When you anneal metal, if you like, not that I make swords, but if you were to make a sword,
I've gone to Camelot.
If you work hard on a piece of metal, you can make it very hard, very strong. If you overdo it, then it makes it brittle and you can break it. And I think that really is quite a good, for engineers in any case, that's quite a good metaphor for, how kind of stress and resilience works. You can kind of take a bit of a beating, but if you're able to manage it and get out the other side, you come out stronger But if you're not managing it and you're not you're not looking after the process, you can end up pretty broken.
Yeah.
And I think, fortunately, probably more by luck than anything else, I've managed to create a bit of resilience. But I do, as you probably will do, remember the phone call.
Yeah.
In fact, I had a series of phone calls. I was in a meeting. I had a series of phone calls off friends, one after another. And I thought, I kind of instantly knew something must have happened to one of our friends. And by deduction, I kind of thought, hang on, my kind of two old housemates and one of our closest friends has rung. And the only one who hasn't rung, who I would have expected to ring, is Andy. So I thought, something must have happened. Never expected that he'd taken his own life. And then, of course, you start to ask yourself a lot of questions. I started, once it kind of sunk in, I was like searching messages. What have I missed?
Looking for what?
Looking for answers and looking for stuff that I've missed, because I thought, And this is a guy, and I think this is where I'm kind of heading with this. This is a guy who, he was like the center of everything. Yeah, he was kind of like party animal. We knew he had his own challenges, but everybody's got their own things going on. But he operated on, I think you probably could have said there was a bit of toxic masculinity there, we were all probably guilty of it when we were younger. He operated on this like high octane, taking the mickey out of his mates, but also he was the one who organised everything. He was the one who kept us all together. He was the one who drove all the social stuff, I think he was, when everyone was around, he was kind of like conducting affairs, and like taking the mickey, and you couldn't get away with anything. But maybe in hindsight, deep down, the fact that he was organising stuff, there's something in there that he was actually seeking, companionship. But I think you're not aware of this stuff, are you? You're not aware of it. And I think I was looking for stuff. How have I missed this? And I was quite, I was upset that he hadn't spoken to me about it. And, as you probably, I think these are all natural things that people go through. But what it did make me realise is I thought, do you know what? I've maybe dropped the ball. I need to do something about this. I can't let this happen twice. Like I was saying to you before about, how things shape the way you think like it certainly as a leader in the workplace. That's definitely shaped my view that people have got to come in front of everything else. I mean, a business has got to survive. Otherwise you can't do all this good stuff. Yeah. But, that's why people have got to come first, because you don't know what's going on. Like, I knew him really well, but I just never saw this coming, to the point where he'd planned it all. It's like made a folder and everything of how he wanted it to be, his own funeral to be dealt with. So I just thought, this is bonkers. How has he not spoken up? How have we not got to that point where he says, listen, I've got to deal with something? He's a very, very proud man. Yeah. And in hindsight, when we all talk about it, we've all come to the conclusion that it's probably very little. He was so driven anyway. He was a project manager. He was so driven. He probably, once he decided, But that doesn't mean you shouldn't change the way you function, the way you think, and the way you operate. And also, looking after other people and caring about other people doesn't take anything away from you. I think there's a lot of blokes. There's a lot of fellas, and certainly, if I think about my mate Andy, who took his own life, I think he would be one of these guys who would struggle with this. This concept of looking after each other and being kind and asking the right things and caring about other people, and still staying true to yourself, still having a laugh, still kind of going out for a beer with the boys, or whatever it is that you want to do, if that's how you've lived your life. And you don't have to just kind of stop being who you are. You just got to think a bit more, and just be a bit more caring. I don't know if that's making any sense.
No, it resonates. I know when we lost Big Mike, we all met up the day we found out, very similar to you. I remember him communicating. We were at Centre Parks, me, Claire, Eva and Charlie. It was a year after his heart anniversary, and I put a picture of him. Charlie was starkest, up against the window, trees in the background, and I put a picture on the lads' WhatsApp group, and I said, here he is, 1 year, living life to his fullest. And Mike was the first one to comment, and he said something like, what a lad. and that was 48 hours before he did what he did.
Yeah.
And we caught up the day that we found out. It was a phone call, multiple phone calls, the night we got back from our Centre Parks holiday hour trip, and we met up. I met up with a few of the local lads, so half of us live in Cumbria and half of us live in the Cheshire area, and we met up in Glossop, a lot of the Cheshire lads and Manchester lads, and I remember one mate just saying, it's just so final. It just feels so final. So I suppose one is, how's your mates doing? How's your friendship group? How are they? And has it changed the way you are now with each other in any way? Or do you just do exactly the same?
A little bit. I think you've got to, I mean, it has actually, yes. I think it's fair to say it has, because you've got to take individuals into account, because people deal with things in completely different ways, you know. We've got one mate who still kind of carries on as if everything's, you know, you're still kind of, and he'll even crack the odd joke, and we'll be a little bit like, that's a bit close to knock 'em up. But we can talk about these things. We say, it's a bit close to knock 'em up. You know, I got another pal who we shared houses together when we were students, and yeah, we're really open with each other. But he was always very open anyway. But I think it's made me more open with him. I mean, I think I've kind of been a little bit like an open book anyway. I feel like I tend to kind of open up relatively easily. But there's some things I'm really not comfortable talking about, and I think, you know. This is a difficult topic to talk about, but I think it has changed the fact that we will talk about it amongst friends. And strangely, I know I shouldn't laugh about this, but we do keep saying, isn't it strange how in life he was always the one that got us together? And now in death, actually, he still gets us together, because we made a point of saying, right, every year as a minimum, we'll physically meet up and, you know, go out sometimes a couple of times a year. So I'm meeting up in March, you know.
Right.
Yeah, but it has changed our relationship. But I think as we get older, we all change anyway. You know, I've noticed a change in the lads at work since we started doing the work with you, the way we communicate with each other, the way we talk to each other. I think you might have even seen. You might have even seen the change. And we've got a real age gap. But I think it's about trust. I think a lot of things in life are about trust, especially with fellas. You know, I think once you trust that somebody's not going to jump on the kind of, you know, the daft banter thing, which by the way is something we've just culled in our workplace. But, you know, as soon as there's that trust that when your mates realise that you're talking about something serious, you know, they don't say something stupid. But I think as you get older, they generally don't do that anyway. But
no,
trust is a key word, I think, in opening up.
I think you bang on. I think you're right. You mentioned before about your mate Andy, and you know he was a very proud man. He said about those masculinity behaviours. He was maybe great at demonstrating that stoic, strong approach. But we do a lot of work, you know, with your lads. We do a lot of work with young people as well. Moving forward as a society, not just in work, but as a society in general. What do you think we need to do more of as the older generation? We are the ones that are looking down and bringing the youth through, whether that's in work or sport or whatever. What do you think we need to do more of?
I think we've got to lead by behaviours. We've got to lead by showing actually, and I'm going to talk about men here in particular.
Yeah.
I think as a man, as an older man, and anybody who's in a leadership position as a parent, I think you've got to show that being caring is actually the opposite of weak. I think it's really important to for younger people to realise that actually the strongest people, the ones who you respect the most, the strongest ones stand up to anything like bullying or, you know, any kind of misogynistic behaviour, or, you know, really brave blokes, because I can only really talk from a bloke's perspective, will stand up and say, "Oh yeah, I'm not comfortable with this. I'm not happy with this." and not not just like I say, not just in the workplace, but that's something we actively encourage, by the way. Probably as a result of our discussions, but
we see that. I see that regularly.
Yeah, and then
it's been a process, man, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's been a process, especially with engineers. Working on construction sites. I mean, there's whole generations that have based their humour on taking a mickey out of somebody.
Yeah.
But we've challenged each other to say, hey, we've challenged each other to say we can have a really good time and a laugh without it being about somebody. That's the challenge. And actually, once you get used to that, it's just the same, just without it being about somebody. And I think it's really important to remember that you don't know what's going on in someone's head in the background, and that you could just say that one thing. Do you even if nothing else, do you want to live with the guilt that you could have been the final, tipping point? Because I can't live with that. So I think it's really important to lead by behaviours, be brave, stand up when you need to, and show younger people that's the right way to do it. Because I think there's a lot of bad role models out there who pretend that masculinity is something else. Being a strong man is something other than that. I can think of a few specific ones.
Okay.
The risk of libel.
Yeah. We're early days into these podcasts, so let's hold on to that. So the last thing I want to ask you, there's two things, but you said before, right at the start of this conversation, that you didn't like the term leader. It didn't sit well with you. Everything that you've just said has enabled me to understand why. You speak a lot about responsibility, consequences of behaviour, the impact that our behaviour, and just basically removing the blinkers. So if your term isn't a leader, how would you want people that you have in your team to refer to you as?
Really good question. Really good question. I'm not even sure how to answer that because I know it just sounds so cliched, and I'm gonna sound like this, like I'm rolling out all the cliches, like I'm just being interviewed after a game of rugby, right? But it is about the team. It is about the team, and you're just a team member. It's just that if you're the business owner, then the buck stops with you. So they sometimes look to you to make. You might have to make specific commercial decisions after listening to everybody. So I guess in that respect, you are kind of leading things, but you're not. You're just kind of one of your jobs is to make those difficult decisions. But it doesn't mean that you're kind of leading and everyone else is following. I think you're just encouraging everybody, to input and create an environment that everybody is in at some point leading. Because you know what? We have these discussions where I say, listen, boys, there's going to be days where I'm not functioning properly, I'll be a bit tired, or I've had enough, or, like I'm just not feeling it. Yeah. Someone else has got to step up and lead on that day. And we don't say, I'm tired, who's leading? We might say, I'm tired, boys, can you help me with this? And then kind of whoever's feeling comfortable with leading that thing on the day becomes the leader. So, I guess you've probably got to put a term to it, and maybe leader is all right, but it kind of feels like that means you're putting somebody out there as, as kind of more important, and that's definitely not how it should be.
No, you said it there, there's something about that equality, isn't it? You're a member of the team. You're all a part of it. So the last thing that I want to ask you, and we're going to ask everyone who comes on as a guest, is we like to refer it as the little blackbird worm of wisdom. We do a lot of kind of tips or stories. So from your perspective, which you've been very open and honest about, what would be your little blackbird worm of wisdom?
I think the word care springs up a lot, and it's a very broad church, that. But I think if you think about, caring for others, caring about what you do, caring about getting things right, caring about your integrity, I think for me, focusing on words like care, pick out those things that are really important to you. Everyone talks a lot about values, but pick out those things that are really important to you and then base all your decisions on those things. For me, that gives me some kind of framework, some purpose, some direction. And then when I look in the mirror, I can say, look, I at least stuck to those things that are important to me. Even if I got it wrong, I at least stuck to those things. And then, even if you keep making mistakes, you can always down the line say, well, look, I just did my best. And I was trying to do the right thing.
Brilliant. Mart, you've been an absolute star. Thanks so much for your time, and thanks for being open and honest. Yeah. Keep smiling, pal.
Thank you.
All the best.
Cheers, bud.
I hope you enjoyed Tackling It Together, brought to you by Little Blackbird. If you did, then please hit the subscribe button. Give us a follow on our socials. Little Blackbird Limited. Also, please give us a like and comments on any thoughts that you may have. Let's get these important topics out there and encourage some meaningful, authentic conversations. See you next time. Cheers, and remember, keep smiling.